Today we're working on this 2004 Toyota Tacoma 2.4 liter, and we're going to be doing two things to it actually. But the first thing is we have a code that's getting thrown here. The engine light is on, and even when we clear that, it comes right back. So I got this Foxwell code reader. I'll show you how that works real quick. So down below here is the plug for this, and this meter is powered by the vehicle running. We're gonna have it read the code. Hopefully you can see that and it's not flickering or anything. Alright, erase previous stored data, yes. Alright, read codes. Stored codes. Alright, so that's a pretty common one, an O2 sensor. So we're gonna lift the front of the vehicle up, get under there and see if we can figure out where it's at and if there's a broken wire or something like that. There's several things this code can be other than an oxygen sensor, but O2 sensor is a real good place to start. It's fairly easy to replace and fairly cheap. I got that code reader off of Amazon, and I will leave a link below this video in the description. Just jacking it up so I can get a little more space to get under here. This is the oxygen sensor right here, going right into the side of the exhaust. And as you can see, there is nothing left on those nuts. So this is gonna be a fun project. I can tell that already. And just so you know, the orientation here, so this is the front of the vehicle up here, and this is behind the steering arms here on the passenger side. I'm gonna get some wrenches and try to get this thing apart. And I'm gonna start out by putting some lubricant on there to hopefully soak into those threads and help them come off a little easier. It looks like whatever the studs were is like stainless or something, so that's good, but those nuts are toast. Make sure your muffler's cooled off a little bit before you spray anything on it or get under here and get burnt. All right, no luck so far. Okay, well, option number 2 is to get a torch and heat these things up. Hopefully get them loose that way. Try to get as low as a flame as I can get, because I don't want to get into anything other than this nut. I don't want to get in any gas lines or anything that we don't want hot. So we want to try to get this nut pretty red hot. Obviously this isn't good for the sensor. We're replacing it anyway. Okay, we got it pretty warm, so let's see what that did. We'll let it cool off just a little bit because we don't want to deform the stud. We only want to try to get that nut off. I think we turned it already. Yep, a little heat goes a long way. You can see we got some space underneath it now. Yeah, I'm so thankful to have a torch because it's a lifesaver. I hope the new sensor comes with some new nuts. One down, one to go. All right, that's what we got right now. All right, I got that nice and red hot, so we should be good. I have a really small vice grip. I think I'm gonna go get and try that. This little burger isn't very long. Hopefully I can get on it somehow. Believe it or not, it's moving. I didn't think I'd get it that easy. It's still gonna be a pain to get it the whole way off, but still plenty warm. Look how easy it comes off once you get those nuts off. I'm not that familiar with what a good one or a bad one looks like. You probably can't tell just by looking at it, but there she is. Now I can just unhook this connector here. This connector, you just have to push this little thumb thing right here. Making a liar out of me. My goodness, it's not coming apart. It's not supposed to come apart. I have to get a screwdriver. That might help me out. Yeah, it was just stuck. It's just been on there for so long, it just didn't want to come loose. Yeah, I'm looking for a O2 sensor for a 2004 Toyota Tacoma. So I got the O2 sensor out that's in front of the catalytic converter. However, when I called the auto parts store to get a price, which was ridiculous, so I'll probably be ordering it from Amazon, he asked which one was it. He said there's one behind the catalytic converter and one in front. So I did a little research, and apparently there's another one behind the catalytic converter that you have to access through the passenger side under the carpet. Apparently, you take this plastic trim off and you pull the carpet back, and then it's accessible. All right, so I took the screws out of this trim piece and popped it off. It didn't come off very easy. It has these little grommet things here that are kind of stuck in there. And then I found where the cord is. Right there's the rubber boot. So I just took a minute to look up what the oxygen sensors would be for both the upstream and the downstream. It looks like I can get them off of eBay for a little less than 50 bucks. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, replace both of them, because I don't know which one's bad. The code reader didn't tell me that. And since I got all my tools out and everything, I'm just gonna go ahead and get them both done so I don't have to worry about it, hopefully. So I got this little tool here that's used for putting little plastic rivets in for like door panels and stuff. So I'm gonna use that to release this thing here. And I still can't figure out how these things come apart. I guess you just put your screwdriver in there and then it releases it. So that was the easy part. I can undo this grommet and shove that through, but I gotta go down below and figure out how hard it's gonna be to take those nuts off. And that's gonna be extra fun because it has that little shield on them. That makes it impossible to get to them. That's where the cord goes. Okay, well that's not gonna be fun, but. So I'm guessing that shield just protects it from like rocks and stuff flipping up, because it's pointing the wrong direction and be a heat shield for anything else. So I'm probably just gonna rip that off of there somehow, cut it off or something. I don't know if there's two catalytic converters or just one, but got 1, 2, and then the oxygen sensor is in the front of that front one. And then the downstream is right here. So I'm gonna start by trying to pry that off of there. Yeah, that's as solid as a rock. That ain't coming off unless I cut it off or something. Why would they do that? They really do want you to take this to a shop, that's for sure. But it ain't happening. It ain't happening. Wow, those threads are bad shape. Probably from this plate holding all the snow and moisture and rainwater in there. They're all rusted. I'm gonna go ahead and get these threads soaking. So hopefully we can get those cleaned up. That's ugly though. So now I'm just gonna take this pliers, hopefully, and pull this next layer back. I didn't think this would be that hard to get this one out since it's not like up by the motor, but oh no. The way they made this flange, it is really hard to bend. I'm just gonna get a grinder and cut them off. We're just gonna get in here and try to cut that away, basically. Now we should be able to bend the rest of this down. There. And get to those nuts. Spray these threads again. These nuts actually don't look that bad, but they probably won't turn. I'll probably still have to use the torch. Nope, it's just gonna round off. So we're gonna get some heat on them, just like we did the other ones. All right, I think I'm gonna try to heat both of them up before I try either one, because I know they're both gonna need it, and that way they'll both be done. All right, let's give that a shot. I think I'm just gonna go right to my vice grip. No luck so far. like every good mechanic, I use tools only what they're made for. Turn, oh, nope, broke right off. And this just entered a whole new dimension. Well, now that that happened, we might be looking at getting this whole section out. It's actually only this, this pipe from here right back to here. We're probably gonna have to drop it out because now I'm gonna have to drill that stud out, put a new stud in there. Might have been easier to do this in the first place, but well, that's just how it worked out. So I'm gonna spray these down good and this clamp down good and get ready to pull this off. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this wire through so we don't forget about it. So this is where it comes through the floorboard. It's got a little keeper up here. You can see it's stuck right there. If I had this to do over again, I would probably just taken this piece out in the first place because I wouldn't have had to do away with that shield, which isn't a big deal, but I wouldn't have had to do away with it to get to the nuts. And it's only 2 bolts on each end and they're larger bolts, and even if you have to replace them, probably not the biggest deal. Now we have to do that anyway, and we don't have a shield anymore, which isn't a huge deal, but you know, hindsight's 20/20. So we're gonna go ahead and get all this out of here and get it straightened up. There we go, we're all loose. Get these bolts soaking here. I use little power tools. Looks like we're gonna have to heat those up a little bit too. Just broke that one off too. Everything's going pretty well, as you can see. But hey, that's loose. It's a little bit more difficult because I got that line that runs right above it. I don't really want to ruin it. I think it's the emergency brake. All right, so I got those nuts heated up. Let's see if we have any luck getting them off without ruining them. It's turning the whole thing. So we got to get a wrench on this side. All these rusty old bolts don't really have a certain size that fits them. Okay, well, just do it this way. I really did not think that I would get those out that easy. I figured I'd have to cut them off, but we got lucky. Okay, so this should be loose, fairly loose. I can probably push this, push this muffler back a little bit. Getting this out of here might be a little bit of a trick because it's been there a long time. Just have to wiggle it a little bit, break some of that corrosion loose. There we go. Oh, now I got the problem child out. I guess I'm going to kind of give you a status update to where we're at on this project. Start at the beginning. So this is the upstream oxygen sensor I took out. I don't see any part numbers on it. Flange is right there, and that's the fitting. These 2 nuts I'm keeping so that when I go to the hardware store I can replace them. I believe there's some kind of lock nut. They seem really light, but that could be just because they're deteriorated, but I need to keep those so I know what size to get. Then this is the piece of muffler I removed. I need to keep this clamp because I need to get a new one to replace it since I busted the threads off. And then this is one of the studs that broke off in this sensor here, so I'm going to have to drill that out somehow to get a bolt in here. Might have to even go with a bigger size bolt on the new sensor because hard telling if I'll be able to get that stud out without ruining the threads. And then I still got to get this stud out, which is probably going to be similar result because it is really bad shape. These nuts look like some kind of a flange deal, the bottom of them. These are the bolts that I took out of this end flange here, and I'm going to replace them because they are in really bad shape. They're rusted, the diameter's even small there, and yeah, they're bad shape, so I'm going to replace those as well. So yeah, this is the downstream sensor, and you can tell the difference because the new one will come with this rubber grommet that goes through the bottom of the floor. These look like the same exact connectors, but this one is a lot longer. So that's where we're at. We got this thing out where we can work on it. I'm gonna clamp this pipe in a vise and work on getting this next stud out. Yeah, those threads are shot. Okay, so no matter what I do here, these studs are gonna have to be replaced. These threads are no good, so even if I put a new nut on here, if I could even get this nut off, it wouldn't be any good. So it's probably gonna end up breaking off, and that's just fine. Yep. Well, maybe I can pull the whole stud. Maybe it'll come out. The stud will come out. That'll be good. There's the other sensor finally out of there. It almost looks like somebody's replaced this sensor before, and instead of fishing the wire out, they just spliced it in because they didn't want to try to figure out how to get the rest of this out. We need to get this stud replaced and obviously get this one out too. So we're going to use some more heat to try to get this out. I doubt I can turn it at all right now. Nope, so we're going to put some heat on it. Hopefully we can turn that stud out. We're turning it. I don't know if it's good or bad, but we turned it a little bit. If we can avoid drilling it, that would be nice. Nope. Unavoidable. So because they're both broke off, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure they're flush with a grinder so that when we drill, our drill doesn't walk. I wish I had a drill press here, but I don't. So I'm going to use a transfer punch to center punch these holes the best I can so I can drill them out. Imagine these studs are super hard. So we're going to start with a super small drill bit. Try to get a pilot hole through them and get them straight. Try to do our best to save the threads. One hole all the way through. Two holes all the way through. Now we'll step it up. That's what I got so far. That hole's a little off, and this one's a little off too, so not perfect. I'm gonna take it up a little bit bigger and then try to pop those threads out. So as we're trying to get these threads out, we are gonna mess up the threads a little bit. That's why we got taps. We can go back and clean them up. We may not be able to save it, but it's sure worth a shot. I got some decent amount of metal here, so I'm going to take a burr tool in there and try to clean some of that up so that I have less resistance. All right, I got this little cutter here that I'm hoping will do the trick. This is a very aggressive bit, so it keeps pulling itself out of this little collet. It's way overkill, probably, but this is also a lot faster cutting. All right, let's see how things look here. These studs only go just a little ways down there, maybe quarter inch, half inch. All right, it looks like I've got those holes pretty much ground out to where they need to be. I think I'm gonna try to run a couple more drills through there and then run a tap through. I think I can clean those threads up. I guess I could take this flange off too, probably make things a little bit easier to see. It's looking good, actually. Looking a lot better than I expected. Let's try to determine what threads those are and what we need to drill it out to. I'm gonna keep this nut for reference. So the outsides of these threads are measuring about 0.300 of an inch. So we're gonna put that in metric and see what that says, because it's probably metric. So it looks like it might be, it's saying about 740, but these threads are really bad. So it might be an 8mm. I'm gonna measure these studs on this front one, because I'm thinking they're probably the same. Oh yeah. I think I've decided it's an M8. So that's gonna take a 263 drill bit. So we're gonna drill through with that real quick. Drill that old stud out of there. Now we should be ready to run our tap back down through there. So I got an M8 tap here. At least it looks like an M8 tap. I can't read the numbers anymore. But either way, it's very similar to what size is in there. So even if it's not, I'll find a bolt that fits in here. I want to take this to the store as well, but I'm pretty sure it's an M8. So we're gonna tap these out. They look really good. A lot better than I thought they would end up. This should push any of the old threads out and clean up the threads. All right, we're all the way through on that one. Oh yeah, plenty good. Got her. Both of them are good. Got threads in both of those holes. So we just got to get some new studs and nuts that fit the studs. Obviously our new sensors, and we're ready to get this back together. Gonna blow these out with some air real quick. Gonna go ahead and clean up this surface a little bit. All right, these are the O2 sensors. Got them the other day. And all you get is the O2 sensors. There's no flange that comes with them or anything like that, no bolts. That's a little disappointing because these flanges are kind of rusty and corroded, and this one here has part of it broken out. But I don't have any other options, so I'm gonna have to reuse them. But these saved me a ton of money because auto parts store wanted like $200 a piece. Ridiculous. I don't know why. It's a huge difference. So we're going to be putting these back in today. I got some supplies from the auto parts store and the hardware store. I got a stainless steel clamp to replace the one I busted, and I got some flange bolts. Got a couple different sizes of M8 thread, I believe. So what I discovered when I was getting my bolts the other day was I actually tapped these out to 5/16 18. So I went ahead and got some flange bolts that will fit that. So it was hard to tell if they were an M8 thread or a standard thread. And then these here I think are M8, and these are hopefully will fit the studs in the front sensor. And then I got some replacement bolts for the ones I took out of the muffler flange right here to remove that section. So we're going to start with installing this sensor right here. So this is the rear one with the extra long lead. These are all stainless bolts and nuts that I bought from the hardware store, so I don't want to deal with rust again. All right, there we go. This process should go pretty fast. Pre-assemble this a little bit so it's easier to deal with underneath the truck. All right, I'm gonna get this back in here. There we go. We have to make sure these holes line up. There we go, lined up good. I want to make sure this pulls together right here. Now we just gotta make sure this end is in there good and tighten this back up. I like to put these clamps at a little bit of an angle so that the water can run out. That's plenty tight. So now I just gotta run this plug back up into my floorboard. Just gonna run like that. Stuff it through there. Go up there and finish putting it where it goes. I pull the lead up through here. I'm gonna get this rubber piece where in that hole like it should be so it doesn't move around. There we go. Now we just plug it back in and that little latch part goes up. There we go. Now we just stuff this back in here. I can hook this back into the place that was holding it, maybe. I don't know if it'll stay, but I'm just gonna push it back in there, bring this carpet back down, and put this plastic piece back in here. All right, let's get this front one back in. Start by making sure I got the right size nuts. So put our flange on there. And drop our sensor in here. I think these are called Schrover nuts or Shover nut. They have a little bit of a rounded on the top. I think that kind of stops them from coming loose. Can't turn it by fingers, but it's so loose it won't turn with the socket. That's where an air tool comes in really handy. As long as I can get my tool in there, I'll try to run it down a little bit closer to the flange. There we go. Now it's not loose anymore. I can finish it with my ratchet. It's just the wrong angle. Let's try it from this side. That's why they charge an arm and a leg to do this job in the shop. At least I would. So there's space in these holes, so if I couldn't have got my socket on there, I could have actually pushed it this way a little bit. I gave myself some more space on this side. Actually, I'm gonna do that anyway, just so it's centered more. Back this one off just a hair. There. Now it's more centered. Fitting a little longer socket makes it a little bit easier. Okay, got that all snugged up. Just gonna snug the sensor itself up. All right, now I come back here and plug this in. Make sure the tabs line up. I think this actually attaches to the top of this transfer case or whatever this is. It doesn't want to go in there very good. Well, I'm just gonna use a zip tie and hold that up there. And I can't get that to stick in that hole where it was. So I'm just gonna zip tie it up here to keep it away from this muffler. There we go. It's connected, zip tied so it can't get into this muffler. I will have to say this rear one's loose too. Make sure these are tight. It's probably just for people that wanted to swap out the sensor itself and not replace the flange. There we go. All right, should be ready to start this up and see if we get the code anymore. I'm gonna have to probably clear the code out to get a fresh start. Erase previously stored data. Now we're gonna erase the codes. Right now our light is off. That's good. So now we're gonna unhook and just see if that light comes back on or not, or if we got our problem solved. So far it's looking really good. That light would come right back on before, so I'm gonna go ahead and shut it off and turn it back on. Well guys, that looked like it solved our problem. There's other things that can cause that, like a loose gas cap, exhaust leaks. There's some other things, but this was the classic O2 sensor problem, and I just swapped both of them out to be safe. It cost me maybe 45 bucks plus the bolts and screws, which is probably another 20 bucks from a hardware store. But well, I hope you got something out of this today. If you did, think about giving the video a like. It really helps others get to see it, and think about subscribing to the channel if you like this type of content. Until next time guys, good luck with all your projects.